Dear students, in our today's class, we are going to discuss about the relationship between the classes. Come, without taking any time, just we are directly moving now. Relationship between classes. And this, under relationship between classes, the first thing is, that is virtual base classes. Virtual base classes. What is meant by this virtual base classes? Now we are going to discuss regarding virtual base classes. First of all, I will write the definition of virtual base class. Then I am going to explain. After that, you can understand what actually means virtual base classes. When two or more classes are derived, when two or more classes are derived, when two or more classes are derived, okay, then from a common base class, base class, then after that we can prevent multiple copies of the base class, multiple copies of the base class. We can prevent the multiple copies of the base class being present in an object, being present in an object. Derived from those objects derived from those objects by declaring the base class as virtual. Base class as virtual when it is being inherited. When it is being inherited. Such a base class is known as virtual base class. Virtual base class. Then after this can be achieved by proceeding the base class name with proceeding the base class name with the word virtual. Okay, now I am going to explain you this. Now, dear students, look here. If you listen carefully, then you will going to understand the concept of virtual base classes. First, we are seeing that when two or more classes are derived from a common base class. When two or more classes are derived from a common base class. Okay? If two or more classes are derived from a common base class, then at this time we need to prevent the multiple copying of a base class. See, we can prevent multiple copies of a base class. We have to prevent the multiple copies of a base class. Okay, being present in an object. Okay, classes are present in an object only. In order to prevent the multiple copies of a base class, okay, we need to make this base class as virtual class. You need to make this class as virtual class. So such a class is known as virtual base class. Such a base class is known as virtual base class. Once again I will explain. When two or more classes are derived from a single base class, okay, at that time there is a chance of getting multiple copies of base class. To avoid that multiple copying of a base class, we need to make that base class as virtual base class. How can we make it as virtual base class? Just by giving a word virtual with the base class. If we give a name virtual with the base class, then the base class will become a virtual base class. Now, I will take one diagram. With the help of that diagram, I will explain you the base class. First, remember these things. What till now I have explained. Remember those things. Then I will go into give you the explanation along with the diagram. Then you will come to know what actually means the virtual base class. Okay, now I am going to give you explanation with the diagram. Base class A. Take a first class which is base class and the class name is A. Okay, this is a base class with the class name A. Next we have to take one derived class. Derived class, that is B. Okay, then one more class, derived class, that is C. Now these two classes will take members of a base class. Okay, get one copy of base class data. Okay, then here also get one copy of base class data. Okay, look here. We are having two derived classes. See, from base class, one derived class B and one derived class C. And from these two classes, we have to derive one more class, that is derived class D. Okay, get 2 copies of base class data. It will take 2 copies of base class data. So to avoid this happening, so this happening is called as ambiguity. Okay, a derived class copies the multiple base class data, that is called as ambiguity. To avoid this ambiguity, we need to make the base class as virtual class. Hope you have not understood. Base class A. Take class A. Okay, this is a base class. It includes in private, it includes int A, then int B. Okay, under public, it includes void read, then void display. Void display. Enclose the class. This is a base class, class C. Now from this base class, okay, we will derive 2 classes, derived class B, that is derived class C. Then derived class B copies get 1 copy of base class data. It will take 1 copy of base class data. That means this is derived class, that is class B. Open private. Okay, under private, what it will do? 1 copy of base class int A. Just 1 copy. Okay, then public void read. It will take just 1 copy of base class. Then derived class C. What it will do? Take here class C. Okay, under private, it will take the left one, that is int B. Then under public, it will take void display. Void display. Okay, 1 copy of base class data, that is int B void display. Then derived class will take 1 copy of base class data, that is int A. Okay, then void read. So if again one more class is derived from these 2 classes, then what it will do? It will again take all the 2 copies of the base class data, because 1 copy is here and 1 copy is here. If a class is derived from these 2, then this will take both the copies of the base class data. So this thing is called as ambiguity. So to avoid this thing, virtual base classes has to be used. Along with the base class, we have to use a virtual word. Now I am going to give you an example. So by this example, you will come to know how a virtual base class can be created. Now write down the example. Example we will take, make it 2 part. Okay. Then start. This is a base class, that is A. What the diagram I have given, based on the diagram only, I will give you an example. Then open. Okay. After that, what we have to do? We need to write the access specifiers and functioning control. Okay, this is the base class. Now, from this base class, we need to create what? 2 derived classes. That is, this is a base class here. We need to create 2 derived classes. One is class B, another one is class C. So now we have to do this class B. Okay, class B. Then after that, put colon. Then we have to use here virtual. Then what? Virtual class A. That is virtual base class. Then open class. Then repeat the same things here. Then maybe include same things means functions. Okay, member data member. Class B were derived classes inherit. Now class C. Then virtual class A. Okay, class C is created and we have used virtual class A. Then open class, do the necessities of a class, then close the class. These are two derived classes. Okay, then after that, so just a minute. Instead of using class here, we can use public, because we are creating public classes. Here instead of A, we have to write it as public A. Okay, because we have created the public classes. And now one more class, that is class D, which includes public. Okay, this class is derived from public B. Okay, and public C. Like this, we have to create a virtual base class. So we need to put a comma here. So this is the example of creating virtual base class. This is the base class and class is derived. So without repeating the data, we are doing just virtual A. And then class C is created without repeating in the base class. We have taken just virtual public A. And one more class that is derived from B and C, that is class E. Okay, it is derived from class B and class C. Like this, we have to define the virtual base classes. Come now, we shall see the second thing, that is abstract classes. Virtual base classes and abstract classes. Okay, the next one is abstract classes. Abstract classes. Okay, we shall see what is meant by abstract classes. An abstract class is the one. An abstract class is the one which does not used to create any object. Okay, listen here. Abstract class is the one which does not use to create any object. Does not use to create any object. This type of class we can call it as an abstract class. Okay, and next, an abstract class is designed. An abstract class is designed only to act as a base class. Okay, how an abstract class is designed? An abstract class is designed only to act as a base class. In the previous example, in the virtual base classes, which is the base class, we have taken class A. Okay, by that class, no objects are created. So that class, the class A, is called as the abstract class. That class, it has to act only as a base class. In virtual classes, class A is acting just as a base class. No objects are created with the help of class. No objects are created with the help of class A. So that example of a class A can be taken as abstract class. And next, it is a design concept. It is a design concept and program development. In program development, it is a design concept in program development and provides a base okay, it will provide a base upon which other classes may be built. Okay, it is a design concept in program development. It is a design concept in program development. What is meant by design concept? It provides a base class. Okay, abstract class itself is a base class. On this base class, other classes are inherited. That means other classes may be built, just like derived classes. Take an example. Class E. Okay. Then after this, which is the derived class we have taken, class B. Okay. Then virtual. It was a virtual class, but here class B is a derived class and class A, by which the classes are derived, and it is a base class. So this type of class is called as an abstract class. Hope you have understood regarding abstract class. Now, the last topic we have left with in this chapter, that is constructors and destructors in derived classes. Constructors and destructors in derived classes. Constructors and destructors in derived classes. First, we shall see about constructors in derived classes. Constructors in derived classes. So here, what is the use of constructor in derived classes? Okay, not exactly the meaning of constructor in derived classes. Here, how constructors are used in derived classes. The constructors of the derived classes, the constructors of the derived classes the constructors of the derived classes receives the entire list of the values as its arguments. Okay, then and passes them on to the constructors. and passes them on to the base constructors, not just constructors, and passes them on to the base constructors. Base and passes them on to the base constructors, and then in the order in which they are, in the order in which they are declared in the derived class. Declared in the derived class. Declared in the derived class. So listen here, students. The constructors of the derived classes. Okay, here we are discussing about the constructors of derived classes. So the constructors of the derived classes receive the entire list of values. Okay, the values which are present, it will receive the entire list of the values as its arguments. The list of values whichever present in the program. The constructor of derived classes receive all the values, and how it will receive the values? It will receive the values as its arguments. Okay, you are familiar about the arguments, what is meant by argument, and then it passes them on the base constructors. Okay, look here. Derived constructors, the constructors of the derived classes receive all its values as arguments and passes those values to the base constructors. Okay, in the order, okay, in the same order in which they are declared in the derived class. If some values are declared in some order in the derived class, then at that time the constructors of the derived class receive all those values in the same order as their argument, and it will pass those values to the base class constructors in the same order. Okay, this is about the constructors in derived class. And come next we shall see the base constructors are called. After this, the base constructors are called. The base constructors are called. Okay, called means invoked, called and executed before executing the statements in the body of the statements in the body of the derived constructor. Body of the derived constructor. Okay. The statements which are present in the body of the derived constructor, okay, before these statements get executed, okay, before executing these statements, the base constructors are called, okay, invoked, and then they are executed. Okay, before executing the statement of the derived constructor, okay, the statements of the base constructors are called and they are executed. So this is regarding the constructors in derived classes. Now I am going to give you an example. By that example you will get clear about the constructors in derived classes. Now I am going to give you the example of constructors in derived class. Example. Okay, now take example as, that is, okay, I will put a line here. Class, that is base class. Okay, base class. After that, open class, then protected. Okay, then after protected, public. Okay, under public, give the base class constructor, that is base class. Okay, so I will give a comment here. This is base class constructor. Base class constructor. Okay, so this is the comment, base class constructor. Then after this, do any required functions, then close the class. Do required functions, then close the class. Now we have to give the constructor in derived class. Now take a class, that is class, give the class name as derived class. Okay, after this what we have to do? We have to put colon, then take a of public base class. Right? The same way we have done. Okay, after this, open this derived class. Then take protected. It does not contain anything. And after that, take public. Okay, in public what we have to do? We have to declare a derived class constructor. Okay, just give derived class. Okay, you know why I am giving underscore? Yes, you know that. Then for this thing, give a comment, that is derived class constructor. Derived class constructor. If needed, do anything and close the class. Like this, a derived class constructor. Okay, like this, a derived class constructor can be given. Hope you have understood about derived class constructor, that is constructors in derived class. And the last thing of this chapter we have left with, that is destructors in derived class. Come, now we shall discuss about the last thing of your chapter, that is destructors in derived class. Destructors in derived class. So how can we define the destructors in derived class? If the constructors are called down, okay, called down the line from the base to the derived class, from the base class to the derived class, base class to the derived class. Okay, hope you are getting. That is, if the constructors, okay, are called down the line from base class to the derived class. Okay. Okay, class A to class B and C. That is base class to derived class. But what the destructor means here, and the destructors are called, the destructors are called just in the reverse order. Just in the destructors are called just in the reverse order. Just like from derived class to base class. Okay, in the reverse order. That is from the derived class, from the derived class to the or up to the base class. Okay. From the here we have taken down. So from the derived class up to the base class. Up to the base class. Okay. The constructors. Take an example. Class A. Okay, open and close the class and take class B. Okay, this is a base class and this is a derived class. The constructors are called, they are invoked down the line from base class to derived class. But the destructors are in the reverse order. That is, they are called just in the reverse order. It means that is from the derived class to the base class. Hope you have understood regarding destructors in the derived classes. So here your chapter, that is inheritance, is completed. If you have any doubts regarding this class, you can ask me personally. Thank you.